This video has been something I have thought about for a while and really didn't know whether or not I wanted to publish it. I should say now, if you're going to be triggered by anything that I might talk about, based on what I posted on my Instagram, I suggest that you don't watch this video. It's not going to be positive. And the reason I'm not even looking at the camera is because I'm trying to compose myself. I know I didn't need to post this video and I don't have any interest in social media, but I have had hundreds of messages from people, either on my GoFundMe page, through email, on Instagram, and all the beautiful people also reached out to me and donated to my fund. I don't feel like I have to for those people or for all of you guys, but at the same time there is a level of anxiety that I feel knowing there are people out there worried about me and I'm not giving them any answers. So although I don't feel like I have to give anybody any answers, I thought I'd do this video just to clear things up, and then this might be the last time you see me or hear from me. So this is going to be a long video probably, and an emotional video in many ways, but I want to explain to you where I've been or what's happened to me, and just clear up a few things that people have really been panicking about, and literally panicking. Like, some of the messages I've received really sort of worked me up inside because people were genuinely worried because they cared. And one more thing I should say about this video is that the reason why it's taken so long is because I've been going on a spiral with coming to terms with certain things and trying to work through other things, and being in denial about certain things and fighting against certain things, which I'll explain. So I try and keep this as short as I can because I could go on for hours, and I might do a second video possibly to explain what I'm going to talk about now in more detail for perhaps those of you who might be in a similar situation to me. So last July of 2019, I broke up from my partner in an absolute mental state. My mental health had been going downhill dramatically, I think, for a long time, and around the time where this breakup happened, I attempted to end my life multiple times. I had the police called out on me, and I'm not going to go into more detail about that because that was horrible. Like, horrible's an understatement. And I lost everything. I had to move back in with my mum, and I spent all of my summer holidays pretty much just not existing. Well, existing, just not living. Battling with so many things, back and forth. And in September I had a contract with a new school, so I had to move back up to London. I ended up moving up pretty close to where I was living before. And I was just an absolute mess. Like, I was not able to function, I wasn't looking after myself, I wasn't eating, I was self-harming myself. And at school I was okay, I was able to function, I was able to do my job, it gave me a little bit of respite, but every single second outside of that school environment I was an absolute wreck. I would spend my weekends on the floor, curled up in a ball, crying my eyes out all day. Crying my eyes out all day, not eating properly, again self-harming, all of this stuff, and I had to leave school. I had to leave my work and take a little bit of time off because I became very emotional sometimes at school, outside of my classroom obviously, and I wasn't coping, so I needed to take some time off. During that time I was in contact with a mental health team who were coming and seeing me all the time, and my situation was getting worse, but I wasn't getting any help. Even though I sort of stated certain things, like I had attempted suicide a couple of times more, and it wasn't really taken seriously. And when I thought I was slightly better, I went back to school. I felt the sort of probably pressure that I gave myself to go back to school and carry on working. I just felt I had to carry on with my life. Like, this is what people do, they carry on with their life. And I lasted a few weeks, and then I went spiralling out of control again. And it was during this time that I realised I didn't want to fail at ending my life. I wanted to make sure that I did it right. So I ended up completely cutting everybody out because I found myself more at ease when I didn't have to answer to anybody or anything, and I deleted all of my Instagram, I deleted my WhatsApp, I deleted Messenger, like especially as I got a few messages from my partner, and it triggered so much because the way he treated me was just so I began in about October time to actually plan out how I was going to end my life, and I started to buy things that I would need to do that. And still I was going back and forth in the mental health team. There were a few times during this month, in a few times during that month where people phoned the police on me because they were worried about my safety, and I ended up being hospitalised for dehydration during that time, of which they didn't again take it seriously and didn't actually give me liquids, whatever they're called, and so I ended up going back to hospital shortly after for dehydration again. I'm getting to the point in a minute. So things spiraled so out of control, me being off work, me planning to end my life, me buying things, reading things, getting myself prepared for it, that, it's disgusting, sorry, that I had the police and ambulance phoned on me in very short succession of time, like 2 days. And because I'd had a history of being recognised by the police as somebody that people were constantly phoning and worrying about me, in December I was hospitalised and I was sectioned, and lost all my freedom, all my rights. And that was the time when my ex-partner decided that it would be good to like block or delete me, or I don't know, just stop talking to me, basically, like remove me from his life because I was a problem now. Anyway, fast forward a little bit now because I want to talk to you about where I am now. It has taken me a long time to realise a few things, and I'm still in denial a lot. When I was between about September and before I was hospitalised, I was really trying to figure out what had gone on and what was wrong with me, and why my mental health was so bad. And so I remember coming online and asking you guys to help me, because after doing lots of research I felt like I might have been somebody who had borderline personality disorder, and I went through many professionals to seek help. And because the nurse had told me that I was really emotionally dysregulated, that sort of like set off alarm bells. And so I began attending dialectical behaviour therapy in about September time. I'm so sorry, I don't have a tissue, so disgusting. Ugh, I can't even wipe my nose. And so I began attending dialectical behaviour therapy, but although I was recognising the skills to help me become more regulated emotionally, it wasn't helping me in my situation, because I got to the point where I was just spiralling and spiralling out of control. And that wasn't helping me. Like, DBT is not designed to help people who want to end their life. It's for people to regulate their emotions so they don't get themselves in a state. But during all of this time, I just thought, wow, like, I'm learning so much about myself, like, so much I need to improve on. Like, I'm so, you know, like, emotionally dysregulated and so on. And I just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled out of control. And during this time as well, I began researching quite in depth about narcissism, because I generally believed like this was just more than me grieving something. And I did always have this feeling like the way I was being treated by my ex was really unfair and really not nice at all, at times. Not consistently, at times. So I convinced myself that I had, I don't know what the new name for it is, but borderline personality disorder. And so I went down the route of trying to help myself that way. I didn't ever take into consideration the fact that before this relationship, I had never been like this before in my life. And I never struggled like this at all with any of my mental health. Like I had, like, in the last year of my relationship, and then afterwards. I didn't take that into consideration. I just thought this has obviously triggered something and this is what's happening. And after I was hospitalised, I carried on and read quite a lot into narcissism, and I generally convinced myself that he was a narcissist. But then I didn't know, because I like to self-reflect on myself a lot, and I thought maybe I'm just trying to play the victim, maybe I'm just trying to justify like why my pride and my ego is so wounded by the fact this man has done this to me, and maybe I'm just trying to clutch on straws and make him out to be like a horrible person so I feel better about myself. So I did go down the route of reflecting on whether that could be my push, and maybe to a certain extent to start my research. I wanted something else. I thought there's got to be something more here. To cut a long story a little bit short, in December when I was hospitalised, and then again after I came out, my mental health was so bad I could not function. I can't function right now in any way that I used to be able to function. And the doctors told me that I had clinically suffered from a mental breakdown. I met most of the criteria. And I started to think, how is somebody a healthy 33, 34-year-old who's never had any sort of mental health issues like that suffer a mental breakdown to the point where I just don't want to live? There's got to be something more. This can't just be like I'm devastated because of this breakup. And so over the last matter of months, I've tried to get some professional help. Like, it costs a lot of money and you have to go private, and there's so many things and waiting lists and getting this assessment and that assessment, so I haven't really had as much help as I need. But the help that I have received and the professionals I have spoken to before the hospital, during my hospital stay, after the hospital stay, have started to piece things together for me. It started to make things a little bit clear. Ugh, this is disgusting, I swear to God. I'm so sorry, this is absolutely foul. Like, this is the state of my mental health. Oh my God. There's no tissue around, is there? I'm gonna have to... I swear to God, this is like lower than low. I'm gonna actually wipe my nose with my sock. Oh my God. So, they began to piece things together, and the professionals I've spoken to in the last couple of months have said that they don't, well, they have definitely stated, they've said you do not, it's very unlikely that you have BPD, because it wouldn't suddenly come on as an onset, and you might have many traits to it, but you've been triggered by something else. And then with more and more professional help and professional, like, reading, researching, speaking to people, having meetings, having assessments, this and this, I've been diagnosed, but I've unofficially diagnosed because I've asked them not to put it on my records, because of possible future problems I might have as it's on there, because it's speaking to a lot of people in hospital. It can be quite, it can hinder you in some ways if you have like a diagnosis like stapled onto your records. So I haven't had it, I've had it officially but just not registered, but the professionals I've spoken to have officially diagnosed me with having complex PTSD, which is caused from prolonged abuse or trauma, which has stemmed from my relationship. And this is such a hard thing to understand and to take in, because I know an awful lot. I know so much about trauma. I know so much about narcissistic abuse, pathological abuse. But there's like my brain is just in such a deep set of like trauma at the moment that it's very difficult for me to function. Being emotionally dysregulated matches complex PTSD, having intense flashbacks, like every day. I have nightmares every night. I barely sleep. Sometimes the nightmares are like happy memories of me and my partner. And then sometimes, which also traumatises me in that way, and then sometimes they're really negative and I think back to things that have been said and done or not said or not done that has affected me in such a way. But to be told this, I still don't fully believe. I still am questioning myself about whether it was abuse or not, and whether or not he did it on purpose. I don't know what's worse. Can I just say, when it comes to abuse, that if you've not suffered from any of the abuse, any sort of domestic violence, it's very, very difficult for you to understand somebody who has. Obviously that's just an obvious thing to say, but even before this happened, if somebody had said to me domestic violence or abuse, I would have said, oh, that's a really strong word. And actually, my partner actually said to me once, when I ended up bringing it up in conversation when we bumped into each other, and he even said those words, oh, that's a bit of a strong word, isn't it, abuse? And it is a really strong word. And people think of physical violence, people think of sexual abuse, people think of somebody just shouting at you or screaming and just being like tyrannical at you. And my partner was none of those things. And that's the hardest thing, because if somebody is hitting you or sexually molests you or abuses you or shouts at you, throws things, whatever it is, if someone is physically violent to you in that way, it's really sort of, in your mind, clear cut, like he or she did this, and this might even be evidence you could use in court. But for me, it was emotional and pathological or mental abuse and neglect, and it's such a slow thing that happens, and it's just like, it's like having a like a bottle of sand with just the tiniest hole in the bottom, like it just is, and you're the bottle of sand. It's just the constant, all the time, invalidation and manipulation and all these tiny little things that by itself don't mean anything, but it's just constantly, you're just constantly losing yourself. It's coming out, you're just completely unwinding slowly, and what ends up happening is it's not until you're outside of the relationship, when you have a mental breakdown such as myself and have to deal with this, that you just realise like how you felt and how severe it is. And for somebody who's been through it, like I know there are lots of people who can say, you know, we love you, we hope you get better, we're here to support, and I appreciate and love every single person who's reached out to do that for me. But it's such a lonely and isolating place to be, because you've got nothing, you've got no evidence to show it. It's just your feeling and how you felt, and how you felt belittled all the time. How you felt like I wasn't taken seriously at all. And there were a couple of really big key moments in my relationship that should have been red flags. But another thing you have to realise is that when you are, I don't even like to say this word, when you're in an abusive relationship, people say, if they did that to me, I would leave them. If they said that to me, I would leave them. But it's not as simple as that, and people have to understand that, because it's such a slow thing that happens over time that just brings you down. It completely destroys your self-worth. It destroys everything, and these pathological people are able to manipulate you and turn it round and blame you. And in my relationship, everything I said or did, any worry I brought up, any upset that I felt, I just felt like it was reflected back on me, like, oh, it's your problem, you've got this, you've got to deal with this, you've got to sort this out, you know. And then the constant blaming, and so I blamed myself. I just thought, maybe I am being over dramatic, oversensitive, maybe I am being this and this, maybe he's right and this is all happening to me. But it then just felt like nothing was ever solved, and nothing was ever, no, I don't even know what I'm saying. I just felt, and I still feel now, so invalidated. Somebody that I loved so much. I went into that relationship wanting to elevate him as my partner, like wanting to see him do the best, and I had so much faith in him. And when he achieved something, I was so proud. And I helped him out, and I did everything, and he even said to me, like, no one has ever given or done as much for me as you have. Because I cared so much about him, and I was so proud that he was going out into the world to travel and heal himself. And I just thought, that's somebody I want to be. Because I want to heal myself. I know I've got certain things about my character I need to work on. I'm not for 1 second saying I'm Miss Perfect. But to then try and understand and accept that this same person had such little regard for you, like you were nothing to that person. You can't, the thing with a narcissist, and can I just say, I'm just going all over the place. Narcissism is a word that's thrown around so much nowadays, and most people say, oh, he's a narcissist, or she's a narcissist, if this person was really arrogant or egotistical. And that really, I think, sort of demeans what people who are on the narcissistic spectrum actually are. People on the narcissistic spectrum have no regard for anybody else unless that person is serving them in some way. They don't care that you're collateral damage. They don't care that they can see somebody, and he could clearly see my mental health go down and down and down, and normal people would question and say, why is this person Why is my partner, why is my sister, why is my brother, why are they spiralling out of control mentally? They weren't like this a year ago, they weren't like this, and they're losing it, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. And people would just step in and say, you need help. Like, what's going on? Like, what is this, you know? And he could see this destruction going on next to him, and he didn't care. Because the most important thing for him was himself and what he was doing. He had no regard for me, you know? And that in itself is invalidation. And that constant thing is just bringing me down and down and down. But narcissism is quite a complex disorder. But at the same time, there are so many things that just, they all mimic and they all follow this pattern. Now, from my understanding, and I've done a lot of research, narcissism normally stems, from childhood, like a sociopath is as well, normally stems from social situations as a child. Same with a lot of disorders, they stem from childhood problems. The only difference being is that with a narcissist, they know what they're doing is right and wrong. And they will never recognise that what they have done has affected somebody else. It's never their fault, ever their fault. They will never stand up and say, oh my God, this is not normal behaviour for a person. What have I done to this person? They will never ever reach that level of reflectiveness. Narcissists are not able to love like regular people do. They love what somebody is giving them. They love what life they are being offered by being with somebody or spending time with somebody. They don't understand the full depths of love. So therefore, and they lack empathy. And I remember saying so many times, like, I can't believe how much empathy you seem to be lacking, and it should have been a red flag. I'm learning to forgive myself for this, but that's my life at the moment, like having to come to terms with somebody who I had so much faith in, so much love in, invested so much to help, and ultimately he doesn't care. I'm just damaged now. I'm damaged. I'm too much of a hassle. He's probably blocked me. He's probably told everyone that I'm a crazy ex. Not that I care in that way. Like, I don't care what he says about me. But these people are so dangerous because they do this to people like me. And now I've got to go through years of healing and therapy and God knows what else to get myself back again. One of the side effects of PTSD is that you completely lose yourself, and it's really difficult to explain for anyone who's not been through it, but it's not just a case of I look in the mirror and I don't recognise myself. It's not that. I have that at times. It's complete dissociation from my body. I see my body doing things, I hear myself speaking things, and I don't recognise that as being me. All the things inside of me that I was so proud of having, like my creativity, my passion, and that's just two big ones, but they're just at the moment they're just not there at all. I go into the kitchen and I'm not able to cook, partly because my creativity just makes me look at everything in the cupboard and go, I can't make anything out of this, and partly because I just remember like how proud I was of cooking all these amazing meals for him to show him how much I loved him. So those two together, they're just really triggering. So I can't cook, I don't write, I can't or barely read. I read the odd book and it's more to try and help me, like with narcissism and stuff. And I have to sort of understand and move on, knowing that I will never be validated by him. He will never admit what he's done, because narcissists aren't able to see past their own needs and desires. I tried so hard. And I think what makes it even harder for me is that I don't just feel like I've lost him and lost myself, but I feel like I've lost a little girl who I considered to be like my stepdaughter, and I used to call her my stepdaughter to people, and knowing how she feels and knowing how angry she is, like, it used to terrify me just how angry she used to get sometimes with him and the things she'd say to him, And it was such a problem for me. I just remember thinking, I've never seen a little child, a little 7-year-old, say these things, because she's got so much anger inside of her, which is what I feel, how much anger I have inside of me, because of how unfair, like how invalidated she is, how invalidated I am. And the point I was trying to get on at the moment is that lots of these disorders are created in childhood, and people would argue, well, he's got a lot of healing to do, and you know, we all suffer from things. I've got healing to do from my childhood, but the difference is that with a lot of people's healing from childhood is they're not intentionally cruel. They might hurt somebody in a small way because of something they do or don't do that they don't realise. Oh my god, why is it when I put my sock back on? Oh. Oh, disgusting. But they don't intentionally hurt people. They tend to feel remorse, and narcissists will destroy you, and that is what he ultimately has done. And he's probably proud of it. I don't know. I don't know who he is anymore. I thought I knew who he was. I thought he was somebody who wanted to heal himself, somebody who wanted to spread love, but he doesn't know what love is. So how is he able to give me any love? You know, he will turn it back on me. He'll say, I was too this, I was too that, wasn't grateful for this, this and this. And I'm not saying for a second that we didn't have really loads of really great memories. That's the thing about our relationship. It's not just all terrible, but it was just constant invalidation. A couple of the big ones, and I like I said, if I'm in the mood, I might do another video talking about sort of in detail these abusive things that have sort of happened that just wore me down. Just a couple of really big ones which I think have really added to this complex PTSD. In January of 2017, I think it was, we travelled to Indonesia for 6 weeks, and a couple of weeks into our travels I was actually, I think I've spoken about this before, I was actually drugged. Drugged by one of our friends, our mutual friends that we'd met while we were there, and who his mutual friends had known for a long time. I was drugged, and it took us all of the time we were in Indonesia, 4 weeks, to actually get results back to say that I was drugged with, and I don't know the scientific name, but it's called Devil's Breath. It's a street name. It's a Colombian drug, one of the most dangerous in the world. It renders you unable to do anything, and I was drugged by this person. I ended up in hospital. I was completely out of it. I was paralysed from the waist down for a long time. I lost all of my memory and my thoughts. Apparently they were going to section me because they thought I'd lost my mind. And it was, as you can imagine, like a terrifying, traumatic experience. But actually, within a couple of days, I felt that I'd got over it fairly quickly, and I just wanted to get on with the holiday, and get my results back and not worry about these things. And I can't remember the exact words now, but I do remember at the time, and I remember saying to my best friend, the thing that really upset me wasn't actually being drugged and being in hospital. The thing that used to upset me the most is the guilt I felt because of certain words that were said, certain actions that were carried out around me, and in the days following, which made me feel guilty because I felt like I was ruining his holiday. And these were words and things that I remember him saying, which he'll claim, well, I didn't mean that, you took it the wrong way, but I remember one of the comments made were, well, if you were somebody different, you might not have overreacted in that way. In terms of me, this was talking about me when I came into the room, and I remember waking him up and saying, something's wrong, I think I've been drugged, and then I literally passed out on the floor. And that's the last thing I pretty much remember. But I was made to feel bad, like had I not reacted in that way, things might not have progressed. And I don't even know. But I just remember the guilt that I used to feel, and I remember thinking, this isn't right. Why am I feeling guilty about being drugged and going through a horrifying situation? And I didn't feel as supportive as I wanted to be. And then I remember one of the comments he made to me was like, oh, I didn't think you'd be like this when we were travelling together, like I thought you'd go off and do your own thing. And I was like, but I thought we were travelling together. And I was made to feel guilty for wanting to spend time with him, when really I was just trying to recover from what I'd been through. There's little things like that all the time. And then last year, as you know, or the year before, 2018, I posted some videos online regarding having an abortion, which was really traumatic, and I don't think I was true to myself, because it was far more traumatic than what I sort of digressed in the videos. But basically I accidentally fell pregnant. His words were, you either get rid of the baby or you have to leave, like I'm not having a baby, no regard for sort of my stance on it at all. I felt really pressured. Maybe that was just pressure that I put on myself, I don't know, but I basically had the abortion. During the time I had the abortion, he was in Thailand, which I understand in a way because he'd already pre-booked it, but I just felt like I needed him there, and he could see how traumatising it was for me. And then I sort of excused him for that and said, oh, okay, he's trying to save money because he's trying to travel a lot, you know, blah blah blah, excuses. And so I had the abortion. I remember phoning him on the day of the abortion, and I was like hysterically crying and not really getting much of a response, apart from he just wanted to make sure I did it. And then 5 days later I bled quite badly, phoned the ambulance, they took me back into hospital, and they did some scans and things on me, and they found that most of the fetal tissue was still intact, and they didn't have a clue. They honestly thought I'd taken the abortion pill, because they couldn't believe that I'd had the surgery. And I was like, I had the surgery at like a reputable place, like, and I gave them the details of the place, which are one of the best known abortion surgeons or clinics in England. And they said, I don't know what the surgeon's actually taken out, because most of it is still intact, so you have to have another one. And so I was booked into the hospital, and I told him this, and that one I excused him again because obviously he was still in Thailand. And on the day of the surgery, he disappeared. I couldn't contact him, I couldn't phone him, none of the messages were going through. And it panicked me, because I actually genuinely thought that he'd been mugged. I was like, this is not like him to disappear for that long. And I came back round for my surgery in the evening, he still wasn't able to be contacted. He didn't actually contact me until I got home from the hospital, many hours later. And he said, I'm still feeling high. And he'd basically gone to a beach party and taken magic mushrooms. And he was all jolly and happy and like, hey, you know, I'm still happy, I'm still feeling the effects of these mushrooms. Like, there was just, to process that level of trauma and that level of disregard is very hard. And that was just one of constant daily. So I'm digressing here. This is my situation. I'm dealing with constant daily trauma, trying to come to terms with a man I love, that I have so much faith in, was a good human being, has just discarded me like I'm absolutely nothing. Because a narcissist, and I shouldn't take it personally because that's not what narcissists are. People should say you feel lucky, you know, or you shouldn't be worried because a narcissist, this is what they're like, you know. But to to have these human beings on the planet that can cause so much trauma to somebody and care so little. These people should be in prison. They're dangerous people. They destroy lives. He's absolutely destroyed everything I've worked for. Like, to get myself to that point. A happy, carefree, creative, passionate, intelligent human being. And I know it's still in there, but I've now got to sort myself out from somebody else doing this damage to me. And it's coming to terms with not getting any validation from him. Like, everything, just so much. So this is the reason why I'm not online. I've got a few things happening to me now to help my healing. I'm going away for quite a long time to work on my healing and try to find my strength to come out of this and to unwind and release the trauma that's in my brain. But it's a day-to-day battle. But if I do post on Instagram at all, it will be to sort of try and show my healing journey and hopefully find myself at some point. But I just wanted to let you guys know this is my situation right now. This is a daily thing. Like, this is daily. It's constant. I could have half an hour where I feel alright. Half an hour where I feel quite inspired by something, maybe, I don't know. And then I will spiral out of control and basically don't want to live. And as of late, as I said, as of late and as of yet, I've not really had any proper trauma treatment. I haven't found anyone. I know there are people out there in England that specialise in narcissistic abuse, because it's different from just grief of a relationship breakup or anything like that. It's something so severe, and until you're in that situation you don't understand. Like, to lose yourself in the way that I have is, I don't know what's more terrifying, to lose yourself or to realise that somebody could possibly, I can't even say the word, but to be that evil. And just to be able to laugh it all off, like, who cares? Who cares? What does it matter? Like, you're being too negative, you're being too this, you're being too that, you know? So, I don't know, maybe the universe will give these narcissists, give these emotional and pathological abusers a light. And at some point in his life, whether it's next week, I mean, dear God, I hope it's sooner rather than later, for the sake of his daughter and his family, wake up. Like, I just hope that he wakes up and he's like, holy crap, like, what did I do? Because I have so much love to give, and I gave my love to him and his beautiful daughter, and I loved them so much, and all I wanted was the best for them. And I was just a pawn, I was nothing to him, and that's really hard to deal with, and obviously the ego is fighting off that. But yeah, I'm a mess, I'm an absolute mess. If you made it through all this video, if you're one of those people who sent me a message or even just been thinking about me or sent me any money through my GoFundMe page, in a very small way it helps. Like, I'm not at a stage in my life at the moment where I feel lifted enough to feel I'm in a good place, but I know there are some amazing people out there. And to anyone who perhaps feels like not right in their relationship, I don't know how I feel, I might do another video just telling you, like, and these are, I can't even explain. If I explain to you another video about the things he did and didn't do, oh, this is my god. You'll just think, oh, these are really small little things, and they weren't massive things. They were just small, constant invalidation, like withholding affection and making me feel guilty for this and ignoring me for a day. And you know, when I try to ask for him to be a little bit better at communication because I was finding certain things difficult, it was like, I'm not doing anything I don't feel like doing, you know, which invalidates me even more. And then it was little things like when I'd have these mental outbursts which I was not able to control, and they were terrifying, and I was never physically violent towards him. I was just like in these emotional outbursts I would just like explode, and the only person I was ever punishing is me, because then I'd feel guilty, I'd feel awful about doing it, and then he would always be like, you're making my stomach squeeze, you're making me feel like this. So then all the blame was put back on me again, like it was all my fault. So anyway, I might do another video talking about little things, just in case you're in one of those relationships, because it can absolutely, as it's done with me, destroy me. And I know, hopefully, I'll get to a place in the future, maybe, but at the moment, like, I'm not particularly getting any better. I've lost my career at the moment. I've lost my passion, my creativity. I'm not able to function and do things for myself. I feel really, I don't know. And unfortunately there is cruelty in the world. And these people exist just to do nothing but tear you down and find somebody else to replace you. Anyway, that's my video. And I hope that if I do post anything on Instagram about what's going to happen to me and where I'm going, because financially I've had a lot of help from certain people in my family who are doing, should I say, some incredible things to help me. So financially I'm okay for more treatment and just to get away from here. So hopefully I shall be going to some exciting places. Starting in about 4 days' time, I will be leaving England for a long time. And I hope that you can follow me on my journey. Yeah, and I should also, one more thing I should say is all those Instagram quotes I did. Thank you to everyone behind those accounts, because they've helped me through some of the darkest moments at the moment, as well as all the amazing people who've contacted me. If you've made it through this video with me wiping snot on my nose, then you've done well. But I'm going to stop now.